I'm Luke Sabis. I'm a filmmaker, the director and co-writer of Missing Child, and I am an outlier.
Hey everybody, welcome to Outlier on Air, the podcast where we interview founders, disruptors, and mavens. As always, I'm your host, Ever Gonzalez. On today's episode, we have Luke Sabis. He's a filmmaker, actor, and former musician. Luke, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ever. Thank you very much.
We're excited to have you here, right? This is a podcast about entrepreneurship and the struggles and the success stories and all that good stuff in between. But every once in a while, those that are listening to the show on a regular basis, you guys know that we have actors, musicians, directors on the show every once in a while. And the reason I do that is basically because I want them here because they have great stories to tell. But you guys, right, Luke, people like you, I feel like you all have that entrepreneurial spirit in you, right? You're putting out a product, in your case, a movie, right, which we'll get to here in just a sec. But you're out there in the trenches putting it together, whether it's the funding, the logistics, the whole artistic side of it. And so I think your story is going to resonate with a lot of our entrepreneurs that are out there basically doing the same thing for their product and services. So again, welcome. We're excited to talk to you for the next 25, 30 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, making an independent film, like a true independent film, it's very much like a small business. It's, we are entrepreneurs, we get involved in every step of the way. Like you do in a small business, sometimes you have to kind of pick up the slack. You bring in a lot of people to help out with things, but you also have to kind of get, like you say, get in the trenches with pretty much every step of the process. So
I love it. It's going to be exciting. We're going to talk about Missing Child, the movie that you've been working on for the last while, that you're promoting now, that you're kind of out there talking to everybody about.
Right.
But to kind of paint the picture for our audience. New York boy, right? Born and raised. Now you're the West Coast. Let's talk about that. Where you got started and why film?
Okay. Well, it's been, I kind of have had my feet in a lot of different areas of entertainment. I started my first as an entertainer. It was my first involvement was with music. I had a rock band in New York. We were called The Take. It was a band. We played in a lot of New York City clubs, CBGBs when it was there, and Kenny's Castaways, if people know the area. A lot of well-known clubs like in the Greenwich Village area. And I wrote songs. I played guitar and I sang, and that was kind of my first experience in the performing arts.
So you weren't a cover band, like you were a legit band.
Oh yeah. We played some covers, but no, it was mostly original material, and we had done that for a few years. And I kind of got a little burnt out with it, just dealing with some fellow musicians. There was some classic cliches of a rock band, nice, with drugs and stuff like that. Not and it came. I got a little frustrated with that. So I basically just meant to take a little break from it, and when I did, I came across this acting class over at the New School in New York and started taking it, and I really fell in love with that right away. And I kind of just jumped into that. I started doing a lot of plays in New York, did some small films there, and it was just another way of kind of getting in the performing arts that it was interesting. It helped me kind of understand music more, I felt, and playing music helped me understand the art, if you will, of acting. It just both kind of fed into each other, and I really liked that. So I was doing acting for, as I said, a few years in New York, and then I kind of, I figured, well, I'll have to give Hollywood a shot,
Of course.
And I grew up in New York, so main reason I also wanted to just get out of where I live. I wanted to see something new, and I drove across the country, and ended up here, and I started just doing it. I found doing some plays, some small films, did a little bit on General Hospital TV soap, just had a few appearances on that show. And then I kind of I guess maybe I just had some idle time, and I thought about, what do I want to do with my life? And I just thought, well, if I, say I won the lottery, what would I want to do with my life if money was not an issue? And I thought, I wanted to make films. That was just, if I didn't have to worry about money. So of course I do have to worry about money.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
but it, at least the question pointed me to where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do.
Well, good. Let's we'll get into that part of it here in just a sec. But I still want to poke a little bit in the history there. So, being a musician and then getting into acting and kind of having that right. Artistic side of you, right? Getting I don't know, the creative part in music and in film and acting, things like that, right? So you're that type of guy. What was the home life like? Were your parents or anybody else into? Were they creative? Were they into music and film?
My father, he was an engineer. It was his work, but he painted. He was a painter his whole life, and he did quite well with that, actually, as sort of having it on the side. And my mother, actually, she sang opera, so they were kind of in the arts, but they're not really taking it all that seriously. And it was, I shouldn't say that. They took it seriously. They just didn't think it was the type of thing, coming from that traditional point of view. They didn't think it was a stable
career-wise, yeah.
Right, which it's not. But I don't think anyone goes into these things because it's sensible or it's reasonable.
For sure.
You're following a passion, and they were. It was interesting. They're probably more interested in the film part. They I guess they just personally liked film, and maybe they were also threatened by the whole rock and roll, the rock and roll thing. But they were supportive of film and acting to a point. They liked that I was doing it. They probably wished I was not as passionate and single-minded as I have been about it. They wish I did have a more traditional job, which I've had traditional jobs.
Yeah, you were a computer programmer for a while, right? I mean, that doesn't get more traditional than that.
Right. I mean, that was my background, my schooling. I had a bachelor's degree in computer science. And but that was always, I knew it was always a side job, and it wasn't where my passion was. I just figured it allowed me to pay the bills to get out there and do what I really want to do, which it has, and kind of now I've kind of let all that stuff go and have focused solely on filmmaking at this point.
Let's talk about that point in your life, right? So you're working a normal job for the most part, doing some of these things on the side, the creative, the music, the film and acting and things like that. Where were you? What were you doing when you decided, like, hey, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to give it a shot. And what was that process like?
I mean, it was kind of somewhat recent. I mean, it's
really?
always,
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was really when we started jumping way ahead with the film festivals. When we put the Missing Child out on film festivals and we started doing a little tour with that, that's when I kind of let go my day jobs, and actually, I had gone from a lot of different day jobs, and the last job I was working prior to this point, I was working as a massage therapist here in Hollywood. Nice. So I've kind of went from a very wide range of occupations, but that was, I let that go about 2 years ago. About 2 years ago, and that's it was that was kind of. It was something I had thought about for quite a while, and I had to really, it was just something, a decision. I knew I had to make that decision. I had to sort of jump off the diving board at some point, to kind of really put myself into it fully. But I'm glad I did. I feel it has helped me. It helped me focus on what I want to do, and that focus has brought me a little bit further ahead, I think.
I love it. I mean, there's nothing scarier, more rewarding, more all of these things than saying, this is what I love, and I'm going to stop the regular paychecks to do what I'm passionate about. Hopefully it pays off in the end. But of course, you're putting your heart and your soul into it, like Missing Child. So let's jump into Missing Child, right? What part of you... first of all, tell us what the story is, and then why that story. Why did you need it to get it out there?
Right. So it's called Missing Child. It's a story about. It's a drama thriller, and it's a story of this young woman named Gia, who finds out she resembles an age progressed photo of a missing child listing. And Gia grew up in foster care and never actually knew her own parents. So she's now found a person who may, in fact, be her father. And its story is about her going to see this person to see if this is, if she's related to this person, if this is her father. And through that, she deals with a lot of her sort of old skeletons in her own closet and tries to make peace with portions of her life that were kind of some unsettled areas of her life that she's now trying to make peace with. So, did
you write this and direct it?
I co-wrote it with my friend Michael Barbuto, who is I know him from way back from high school, and he actually still lives in New York. But I co-wrote it with him. We did it, just via online and talking on the phone and so on. But it was a film that, I think when you make a film, like a lot of things, you need a lot of resources to make a film, and a lot of things sort of have to fall into place in order to, when you decide, okay, this is the film I'm going to make. And one of the reasons I was making this film, for one, it was an idea that could be done on a relatively low budget with, fewer resources, which, is just the practical side and the practical considerations that went into making the film. And that's kind of like, again, on the financial side, it was just something I felt I could handle. I could raise the amount of money that I need for it, and it could be done because, I don't want to make something, a great, big spectacle, having a great grand idea of a film that never happens because I can't raise the money. So I wanted something manageable. So that's a big part of why this was chosen. And as far as the story itself, the story, it deals a lot with isolation, characters who are isolated from each other. And that was kind of something that I was dealing with myself, or I have dealt with it myself at times throughout my life. And it was something maybe when I started making the film, I had gotten out of a relationship. It was like a breakup and all. And I felt maybe a little isolated. And I just wanted the story to kind of work through that isolation and work through that part of my life. So it was that was sort of the artistic side, and on the practical side, it was just something I felt could be made. So I kind of decided at some point, just okay, this is the film, got to do it.
I like how there are two different type of people for the most part, right? Or two different types of talents that you need in order to kind of take the route that you took, right? You need the creative, writing, directing, all that stuff, and then you need the financial, logistics, operations part of it. How did you do with both? Because this is literally you raising the funds, you making sure everything runs properly. This is all you. So how did you marry the two?
Right. So again, the financial, for me, the financial part of the process it's not why I got into, making films. So that was something that wasn't as natural for me. And it was more effort, more, I'd say, work. It was like traditional work to take care of that, because there's a lot of things that go into that as far as, dealing with contracts and so on when you're dealing with the various people that you have to work with when making a film. But that was, again, it was something that I knew I had to do these things. So it wasn't a chore, really. I mean, it was something that I knew. I guess the passion, the artistic passion, kind of drove me through the financial side and pushed me through to get what needed to be done in that area. The other stuff, the artistic side, that's just that's what I do. That's my life. That's what I've always been doing. Since going back to the days of playing music, writing music. We didn't always make money. A lot of times we played gigs for free and rehearsed for endless number of hours in order to prepare for something. So the artistic side, it's kind of my life. It's what I put myself into, and I can work endless hours on that and not even think about it. So it's a joy. It's a pleasure to work on that side. It's a privilege to be able to express myself artistically and pursue those ambitions. So I don't really see that as any kind of work. It's just I do it for free anyway.
And obviously it's paying off, right? I mean, you're getting some pretty good traction. It sounds like from the movie, award-winning indie movie, right? Indie film.
Right.
If that's that's nothing to like sneeze at. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it feels good. It feels good. Like I definitely feel there are moments where you get through everything, and and again, the process of making it a film, you get out of touch with the world sometimes. Just digging at dealing with post production can go on for a long time, and it's nice to get through all that, and then you get to a point where you present it, and it's you get to see what you did, and you get to share it, and you get some response, and that's always an enjoyable part of any artistic process. Anything you do, where you get to see what the people respond to it is a nice thing.
I'd like to think that I understand how films are made, right, from beginning to end, kind of, right, overall, anyway. But when it comes to indie films, when it's time for you to raise money, right, to fund this whole thing, I mean, is that like family and friends, or where do you even start?
That's it. It's family. It's friends, and then friends of friends is really what it turns out to be. I mean, it's people pretty close to me. It's not. I'm not going to a bank. I'm going to people who from some sort of reference, some personal reference, and that's kind of how those things were made.
And so, are they buying into this, expecting a return on their investment, or is this more of a I'm doing it for the art, man, type of a deal?
I think it's both. Uh-huh. It's both. I mean, there's you have to explain the risks of that. When you're talking to potential investors of film, it's a risky business just by nature. The nature of film investment in film is risky, and just legal for reasons you have to explain that. But people, I think there is the hope that the money comes back and that you get actually a return on investment, and that's a possibility with where we're at right now. But there is also the artistic side, just to be part of the process. I think people find that very exciting to be part of the filmmaking process.
So I you tell me, but I see this whole process in four parts, kind of, right? The putting it together, the writing, all that stuff, the raising the funds, the actual filming execution of the film, and then what you're kind of doing now, everything's done. Now you're out there trying to get it to the world, basically, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
What has been the hardest part of this whole journey, or do all these four different kind of sections have their own tough parts?
Yeah, they all have their own challenges and their own rewards. I mean, probably the toughest part is actually the production itself, which is a very intense amount of time. I mean, we shot the film in about 13 days. Wow. Which is, it's pretty. It's not a long time for a feature film.
And how many players involved? Crew and in front of the camera as well.
I mean, well, it's a relatively small cast in front of the camera, but I mean, crew overall, we had like maybe up to 25 or 30 at big times. Yeah. It was a good sized crew. And that's I guess that's the challenging part, that the shoot itself, because you have that, more people and you're coordinating all that. There's a time clock there, and the pressure of getting what you need to get within that period of time. So, but that's also the most invigorating part, because you have all that energy there and you have all those people there. So it's a lot of fun, but it's intense. I mean, it's like, I'm talking like 21, 22-hour days for a good portion of that time for me. So, but that's I didn't even think about it. It's a kind of that's the thrilling part, because it is very intense, high energy, long days, but you don't even that's why we do it. It's the love and passion of it.
So the movie's been out for a little while. You hit the film festival circuit a little bit. Now it's available on Amazon as well, right? So what's other than maybe promoting it, what are you working on right now? What's your day-to-day like right now?
Right. I mean, it's kind of, my day is kind of split between still promoting the film and thinking about, where else can I put it out there. Because one of the things we're doing, we have the film available as a feature film, as I said, on Amazon. It's also on Blu-ray, DVD. But we also have it out as a web series. We divide the film into like an 8-part web series. Cool. Yeah, that's also available on Amazon, and in fact, on Amazon, it's available for free. It may be some commercials or something within that, but you can actually see that, the web series version, for free on Amazon Prime. And that's, just trying to figure out other ways of putting it out there, so it just, kind of repackaging it and putting it out in different formats to possibly broaden our audience. So that's, my time is spent between, just dealing with that, thinking of new ways of getting it out, new platforms to put it out on. And then also working on a new project. I have a film called Ghost Tenant it's very different from Missing Child. Missing Child is a darker film. It's kind of deals with some disturbing behavior in the human condition. It's not it's definitely there's a lot of darkness in the film. But this film Ghost Tenant it's kind of a comedic ghost story.
Nice.
And so it's actually, I made a short film after I made Missing Child. I made a short film called Ghost Tenant, which is kind of a prelude to the feature, and it's about basically it's about an older man who is who dies, who is a ghost, but he has dementia and he doesn't always realize he's a ghost.
Nice.
So, yeah. So he's living in an apartment and as a ghost, and his young kid moves in. Has his first apartment, first time in his life. Welcomed roommate that he sometimes sees and he has to deal with on a full-time basis. So that's the next project I'm working on, Ghost Tenant, and I have a script for it, and but I'm basically going to be looking for funding. Have looked for funding, and that's been going. It's been moving along. So it's just a matter of kind of finishing up on those things and kind of getting into into production for that. So.
You're a busy guy. I mean, you're juggling a lot of different things, a lot of different hats.
Yeah. And also another thing I want to try to do with Ghost Tenant is I want to explore a little bit of the world of VR, virtual reality, which it's a very new thing. And as far as I think the jury is still out as far as like where it is in the world of filmmaking and entertainment. But it's definitely a very developing field, and it's something I'd like to integrate into some part of of Ghost Tenant. Not necessarily the feature film, but there may be like some extra materials with it, like some short films or something that are going to be done in VR to kind of promote that whole thing. And that's just trying to explore that world to see what possibilities are there.
Have you received enough traction overall with your projects and the things that you put out there where you won't need to go back and get for lack of a better word a real job? Is this happening where you can kind of focus on this full time for the next while?
I am for the moment, and we'll see. That's my hope, that's my plan, and that is what I've been doing. And again, I don't know. We don't know right now. Sure. But it's definitely that's the plan. That's the plan that I'm going by at the moment. So
there must have been a lot of highs and a lot of lows, right? When you finally get to work on something that's yours, something that you're passionate about, and even though the end result is there, and obviously you've won awards, so people are connecting with it. But what was the lowest point in that whole process? What were some of the setbacks, some of the things that you needed to overcome to kind of get it out to the masses?
Right. Probably, one of my early goals was, it was always to get into film festivals with Missing Child. And, I wanted to get the film into, one of the top festivals like Sundance Film Festival, for example. And I did try to get it in there, and we did it. We got passed from on that festival. And that was a setback. That was kind of, it was something that, I think I didn't realize when I had started how difficult it was to get in there. So that was something I had learned in the process. And also probably a mistake I had made was taking it out too quickly. Like the film wasn't really ready when we submitted to Sundance. We should have waited longer. That was a little discouraging, but then, I kind of realized, okay, that's not the only film festival, and there are other ones that could do something for us. But that was probably the low point, because at that point, when you get rejected, it's like, you think is that it?
Yeah.
Is it? Do I not have an outlet for this? Because that was what I was expecting. The path I was expecting to take.
And it's difficult not to take it personally as well when it comes to stuff like that.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, you feel it. I mean, everybody says when you make a film, it's like your baby, and that analogy is so true all the way down the line. It really is. And in fact, like that was the thing. Like I said, I think I took my baby out a little too quickly, a little too soon, to present it and to submit it for those couple of early festivals that we didn't get into. So I kind of learned something there, to be a little more patient. That was a big thing I think I learned from that process. But I do have a few people around who are involved with the film who you have that support group, and that's really important. You need that just to step back from it all. Sometimes I think the low point comes when you have a lot to do and you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel at the moment, and that it feels a little aimless. But it's a very short period for me. It didn't happen. It wasn't a lot. Was not the majority of the time, but there was that moment where it felt like, oh wow, do I even want to continue, type of thing. But I worked through that, and it worked out. When we did start doing some festivals and did get some good response for it, and also learned more about the festival selection process to kind of realize it wasn't all that personal. It wasn't. Films. A lot of good films get passed on,
Sure.
so it wasn't. I was able to reevaluate that and feel better about what we had done. So
you're talking about some of the low points and things like that, and although they're not pleasant when we're going through them, like you kind of mentioned, it's a valuable lesson and learning opportunity.
Right.
Throughout this whole process, is there anything that you've been able to learn about yourself, whether it was a high or a low, right. In this whole thing? Anything that you kind of came out of it thinking,
sure,
that wasn't cool and that wasn't fun, but
right.
I learned this or I experienced this.
Right. I think a general thing, again, with making a film like, Missing Child, like a low budget film that we did, it was very much like a small business where I had to get involved in a lot of different areas of the process. And I enjoyed that. I like that. And it also helped me learn about a lot of different areas. It helped me understand different aspects of making a film that I just, I didn't have the knowledge of before, and now I do. So it's nice that I was able to learn about different areas of the filmmaking process. But the big lesson was learning to find people to do those, to pass on jobs to. So I'm not doing it all myself. Basically, finding the right people to pass something off to. Just it helps with the making the film quicker in a more timely fashion, and also just being able to use the expertise of other people, because you can't be an expert in every area of filmmaking. It's just too much, and you wouldn't want that. You look at going way back, like Orson Welles, made when people consider the greatest film of all time, or one of the greatest films of all time, Citizen Kane. He made 1941. And he was a young guy. He made the film. He was 25 or something. And he had never, I don't think he really made any film before that. He couldn't possibly have known about all the different aspects of making a film, but he was able to just dive in there and do it and trust. He had good people working for him, and he was able to use those people and make, a classic film. So I think it's a part that you have to I think we're all different. Some people need to understand every aspect of something that they're doing, which is kind of the way I am, but it's also good to kind of be able to step back from it all and be able to kind of pass things off.
Sure.
And I think that comes from really having a good idea of what you want to end up with, and just communicating that idea. That's probably the most important thing, communicating your idea and then allowing people to put their own input into what you're doing. So you can benefit from the expertise that they have in their field applied to your idea. So it's just a matter of management type of thing, really.
Yeah, no doubt that there are a lot of entrepreneurs nodding their head in agreement right now, thinking, yeah, building the right team around you is definitely. So it's not easy, because as entrepreneurs, we kind of want to go at it our own and be just kind of put our head down and just kind of get through it. But building a team that you can trust and that you can kind of communicate with properly to kind of show the big vision so difficult to do, but the payoff is so so important for the outcome of whatever you're doing, a company, a film, whatever it is.
It is.
So,
and the challenge is though finding the right people.
Yeah.
So it is that balance of having some knowledge of what you're doing, of what you're going for, and then knowing when to step off and step back and allowing someone else to come in and do their thing.
So when we have you on the show again in 3 years, what are we going to be talking about?
Hopefully the great success of Ghost Tenant and all the records that Missing Child has
broken,
no one could possibly imagine. Those that I'd like, seriously, I will hope that Ghost Tenant will be behind me and that will be that will be out, and I'd like to make it on a larger budget. I'd like to have maybe some better known actors and actresses in the film. To give the film more visibility, and working on other films as well at that point.
Well, we're excited for you. We're going to follow you every step of the way. No doubt that obviously you are successful at what you do, very talented. We're definitely going to check out Missing Child. But for those that are interested to hear more about your story or just connecting with you online and also the movie, where can we find you online?
Probably the best place through the Missing Child website. You can email me, luke@missingchild-movie.com. If you Google Missing Child Movie, you'll come right up with the website. Should come right up, and that would be the best place to contact me.
I love it. So Outliers, you can go to outliermagazine.co. That's outliermagazine.co. First of all, subscribe to our podcast, rate, review it, share it with your friends. Obviously, we interview entrepreneurs, actors, filmmakers like Luke, hear their story, learn from their story. They have some amazing things to talk about. Luke, this has been amazing. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, for sharing your words of wisdom and the whole journey of making the film. We wish you much success.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoy your show. Been listening to it, and I like what you're doing here. I like the whole energy of the whole thing. It's really very, very inspiring.
I love it. Thank you so much. And Outliers, we'll talk to you tomorrow.